Hello, Andrew Hebard here with the Arhiflower channel, Regenerative Omegas for a Regenerative Planet. And today I'm really pleased to have Dr. Gary Pusillo as our guest. Gary is based in Iowa. He's the founder and manager of Inti Services. And Gary, your credentials and accomplishments are far broader and more extensive than I can begin to do justice to as an introduction to you. But you're a board certified animal nutritionist. You're a permanent member of the American Academy of Forensic Scientists since 2014. And in many ways, your reputation goes before you within the sort of global world of animal nutrition, animal supplements. Your products have featured, I think, in over 64 different countries. It's probably fair to say that in North America, every pet owner has encountered one of your products somewhere along the line, either in animal health, wellness, and nutrition. You work with domestic animals, you work with exotic species through the zoo network. You've really, really had a very accomplished career, and we're delighted to be speaking to you today about Arhiflower. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. That's quite the introduction. I consider my greatest accomplishment is I survived all those years.
And so tell me, how many years have you been in the world of animal nutrition, animal healthcare?
Well, professionally, 40 years. Obviously, I've had practical experience before that, and managed a farm for 4 years before that, and so 40 years of professional practice.
Right. And our paths crossed going back a couple of years ago now, and I think you came across Arhiflower in a literature review or in a publication. And with your extensive knowledge of animal nutrition, and I guess prior to coming across Arhiflower, omega nutrition in animals was largely derived through fish oil, marine oils. From the work that you've done and your knowledge of fatty acid metabolism in different animal species, what really sort of stands out to you as the nutritional and therapeutic benefits of Arhiflower compared to the more traditional sources like marine sources of omega-3?
Yeah, I guess the stars aligned one day. I was doing some patent work on some different oils and seeds, and I was looking at various different ways of getting these oils and seeds inside an animal that's cost effective and also reliable. And when I came across your information, it was like, aha, I've got something here. This is very intriguing. And it just started a crescendo effect of me looking at alternatives to what I was doing and alternatives to what I saw in the industry as having problems with the fish oil market, and giving people alternatives to have something that's quite unique. I've been looking at your product for ever since we met, and I still find unique things every year.
So a lot of your work, as I understand it, with Inti Services is around consulting for some of the top and even, I mean, in terms of some of the market leading businesses, but also new and startup and innovative businesses across the board. Internationally, you do consulting work from the nutritional aspects, the health and wellness aspects, I guess the pharmacological aspects of these ingredients, but not just how they are metabolized, but also the very important skill set of how to formulate them into new product development. And taking a new ingredient and making a whole range of products from is a very specialist application, something that not a lot of people sort of give thought to. How do I incorporate this ingredient into this product? Could you discuss a little bit about the considerations that you go through in that formulation process, and particularly thinking about how, in the case of Arhiflower oil as an omega ingredient, what considerations that you go through about how to formulate that into products, and probably where do you see long term the biggest opportunity for it in across the species that you work with?
Well, when I look at formulation for a client, I typically have them go through their goals and objectives first. If it's a horse client or a pig client or a rabbit client, you're going to have different goals and objectives. And so I look at what is necessary to put together in a formulation that will meet their goals and objectives. And also a big deal is we have to have price consciousness, especially in production animals. So it's kind of it's a back and forth game we play with my clients. What do you need? How can I fill that void? What is there available out there that will actually meet your needs? And typically what I do is I give them alternatives that are always better than what they had. And no use giving what they had, you give them something better. So when I started looking at ahi oil products, ahi flower oil products, I know there was a missing link somewhere in our chain of command with nutrients. So when I do formulations, I look at what can I fill that nutritional missing link with. And for example, and rabbits have a hard time maintaining their gastrointestinal health on a lot of these processed foods that they're eating. And ahi flower oil in a rabbit diet kind of alleviates some of the problems that I've seen on some commercial diets. And that meant the gastrointestinal tract was functioning properly, no really hard problems in the stools. They maintained almost nearly perfect skin condition. And then when I deal with horses, obviously it's performance low. Is my formulation be able to give the mitochondria the energy it needs so that horse can react? So when I deal with formulations, it's what does the customer want? What can I give them from my experience and knowledge? And how hard is it going to get to that end point? So there's a lot of steps in there, and a lot of it's based on my past experiences and putting it into practice.
Now, you've shared with me a lot of your experience, let's say, in different countries and with different species, and it fascinates me the breadth of experience you've got. We've talked about your travels in Australia, in Mongolia, in Argentina, in Brazil, throughout Europe, obviously North America, and everything from camels to dogs to iguanas to doves. I mean, your breadth of experience, both in commercial settings, in terms of production animals, in terms of exotic species for both pets and zoos, etc. And you've looked at a whole multitude of applications for ahi flower oil and ahi flower co-product, which I'll talk about in a little bit in a minute. I guess one thing that all of these applications have in common, and the companies that you're working for or the professionals that you're working for, is they're concerned about the quality of the raw material. And I know you and I have talked a lot about your concerns that you've had around the quality of marine oils in terms of some of the potential contaminants that you've seen in them, and now not just in terms of the quality, but also the availability because of sustainability issues. Is this a theme that you're seeing across the board with all of your customers? And is this something that really do you think we need to be more aware of in terms of the quality and the sustainability of the current sources of omega-3?
Yeah, we could test oils and get an analysis and try to see what the analysis looks like from a quality basis for the fatty acid content and so forth. But I was looking at it very basically. When I deal with exotic animals, for example, I have a client that has 70 tigers, very well-known trainer. And if I give them something that's not palatable in their food, they might go off feed for a week to 2 weeks. So it's very critical, just the palatability factor when dealing with exotic animals. And then, of course, when we're dealing with pets or cats and dogs, we have palatability issues with fish oils that are not properly processed, or they got rancid. So I see the situation getting worse and not better because of the shortages of really good fish oil out there. And before I go forward in my career, I am looking at alternatives right now to get rid of a lot of the past experiences I've had by using fish oil, and supplementing it with more plant-based oils because of palatability issues, stability issues. Their quality is more consistent. I can rely on batch to batch being very, very close to identical, where I couldn't do that with some of the fish oils. The fish oils were so skewed in their lab analysis because the seasonality of the fish, the type of fish, the processing of the fish, that all was having an effect on my clients' final customers. So I decided to go through the process of doing more consistent, reliable, repeatable results from ahi flower oils and other plant-based oils that I am using. So its consistency is what really matters. You know?
That's interesting, because I've heard some sort of comments recently about, on the consistency front there, that as supplies from marine sources become tight, and it's a well-published, well sort of documented situation we're facing at the moment, that excuse the pun, the net has to widen in terms of the different sources of marine oils being used, and that creates this challenge around consistency in terms of total omega-3 levels, ratios of EPA to DHA. I guess from a formulation point of view, that creates challenges because you're trying to achieve a certain loading of omega-3, but also from a labeling point of view, I guess it makes some challenges to how to actually label that in terms of multiple species, multiple origins, and varying levels of omega-3. Is that something that you see your clients also kind of wrestling with at the moment?
Consistency on the labels is critical, because if they're getting tested for state tests, or they're going through an AAFS examination for their facility, if it's not consistent products coming out, then it's very hard to get certain certifications. But I look at what's happening in the consistency aspect of the fish oils quite differently, because over the years, I've seen the consistency in fish oil of microplastics. It's getting worse with fish oils and fish meals, with so much more microplastics involved in these and the fish, the products that are being used, and it's growing exponentially, and it's a danger. And that danger is something I don't want to subject my clients to. If I don't know the microplastic levels, or the levels of heavy metals is increasing, the levels of dioxins and other things are increasing, that's a consistent problem. So my worry about consistency is that I don't want to have a consistent problem of ingredients that have toxins with it or problematic molecules. I want a product that's consistent in nutrient profile, consistent in results, consistent in palatability. That's how I look at my consistency in using ahi flower products.
It's really interesting you say that, because the conversation around microplastics is very much front of mind at the moment in many industries, and they seem to be ubiquitous. I mean, they're in the soil, they're in the air, they're in the polar ice caps. You read about how prevalent they are, and of course we take conscious decisions to avoid foods that might be naturally high in them, but we don't necessarily think about ingredients that might be high in them that then go through to the next level and the next level. So have you seen any data to quantify how those microplastics are increasing in things like marine oils?
Yeah, there's a number of papers out right now that I've read, and there's some excellent research that the microplastics are not now becoming even smaller. They're nanoplastics. And the nanoplastics, for example, if I use a fish oil or fish meal into a dog product that's kibbled, and that kibble creates a dust, that dust actually gets into the respiratory system. And these nanoparticles and microparticles of plastics have detrimental effects on respiratory systems in dogs and other animals. So just the dust of the foods that are being made can have tremendous overall respiratory problems. And I see, since I have a worldwide practice, I just don't sit in Iowa. I see so much respiratory problems on dogs nowadays because of their exposure to so many things in their foods, plus in their environment. Don't forget, they're standing like 3 feet off, not 3 feet off the ground, but they're standing closer to the ground than we are. So they're also breathing in a lot of dust and microplastics. So there is some evidence that a human in 1 week will eat the equivalency of a credit card full of plastics. I don't know if I could say that in Iowa, but maybe in the cities it's possible, and especially large cities like Seoul or Beijing, larger cities. So that is my real concern in the future, is that we're not taking a serious enough look at our ingredients and the things that they are producing that can be detrimental: mucous membranes, lung tissue, gastrointestinal tract problems. We have to stop and say it's not just nutrition, but what else is coming along with that nutrition? But one good thing I've discovered with ahi flower products is we have unidentifiable products right now. Molecules in there right now, phytochemicals that I have not been able to put my finger on all of them yet, but we have phytochemicals coming in that are excellent for dogs and cats and other species that actually, fish don't have these particular ones because they're not a plant. And so these unidentifiable things, years ago, 40 some years ago, when I started working with colostrum, we had unidentified factors that were having this remarkable result in animals. And that was called a quack, a kook, and everything. But now they've proven these unidentified molecules in there, secretory IgAs and so forth. And I think you're going to see the same effect with ahi flower products. You're going to see these unidentifiable things being discovered by scientists. Nature already knows it's there, but we're going to discover these things, and it's going to be a moment of high expectations for other ingredients to meet that kind of a goal that you have already set. You've set a high goal in the nutrition industry. And I plan on using that because it's my reputation that matters the most. If I lose my reputation, I lose everything.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's, there is a lot we still don't know. We've obviously looked for any anti-nutritional components, which we haven't discovered. We haven't seen any. We see great palatability, diet compliance with animals, and that sort of thing. But I do agree with you that when you get down to the molecular level, like phenolic compounds, what other things are in there that might be having sort of health benefits, that as you make the good example with colostrum. So, you've seen our evolution and been very much part of our evolution and helped us in this process of thinking beyond just ahi flower oil. And as you know, we make the oil from pressing the seeds. We use a cold press technology, so we don't incur any solvents like hexane. And when we press the oil out, we're left with a press cake. And you're familiar with a press cake, a very high calcium-rich press cake, low in fat, low in digestible energy. And we're also now using the micronized seed, which is taking the whole ahi flower seed, gently treating it with steam, which has a sort of dual effect of making it easier to mill and flake, also adds some stability to the omega oil, and improves the digestibility of it. You've worked with the micronized seed and the press cake in some very different applications. I'm thinking the soft chews that you've made, the dental sticks, etc. And again, across different species, from dogs, cats, rabbits. I even think it extends to some animals like hamsters and chinchillas. Could you share with us what your sort of observations are so far on that, and what you think this might also present in terms of an opportunity for broad nutritional benefit in those species?
Well, I look at your micronized seed as an undiscovered treasure chest of nutrients and other things. I'm just amazed at the different types of fibers that I've seen in that micronized seed. Not only from a nutritional standpoint, that they can spare amino acids actually, and there's certain types of amino acids that are degraded when you're on a low protein diet, especially if dogs or cats or other animals are on a low protein diet for some reason. Your fibers can actually spare amino acids. And I haven't written a paper on it yet, but this is what I'm looking at. And so then we get into the aspect of those fibers actually being a prebiotic, excellent prebiotic effect. I've done a lot of fecal work with cats, especially cats with megacolon, old cats with megacolon, feeding not only the press cake but the micronized seed, and I decrease megacolon in aging cats and get them back to more of a healthful bowel movements. But the seed is really unique in that the palatability is excellent. The nutrient profile is just great. And I don't have to worry about super high levels of starch, especially when I'm dealing with horses that perhaps have some reaction to excess starches and sugars. And this fits perfectly in that kind of a diet, especially, and then also in in veterinary cases where you have to cut down your starch and your sugar because of laminitis and other problems in horses. This is an excellent way of getting protein and fiber and all different kinds of fatty acids that are tremendous for the horse dealing with, I call it hypoxia of their tissue. The tissue is not getting enough oxygen, circulation is low, immune function is decreased, and these seeds just seem to be magical in their response to almost every animal I've tried it on. I've tried your seeds on a tremendous amount of different animals, and I'm doing a study on racing camels in the very near future, featuring your products. And that's going to be a tremendous support for the racing industry of camels and in countries that do race. There's a lot of racing camels. But getting back to your question, micronized seed is an untapped resource that nutritionists will eventually understand and get involved with. But right now they're too involved with the flax seeds of the world and the chias, and because that's what the customers identify. They have not heard so much about the ahi flower micronized seed, but they've heard of flax. So it's an educational program. My clients adapt it because they trust me, and I've had 30, 40 years relationship with my clients, and they do it. But hopefully the world of nutritionists and veterinarians will catch on to this secret that I think you've been keeping hidden. I'm glad I discovered what you already have.
Well, not intentionally by any stretch of the imagination, but it is very difficult to introduce an entirely new ingredient at multiple levels, and whether that's at the getting farmers to grow it, getting consumers to take it, or getting the middle part of the industry there to process it and formulate with it. So it's a process, but we're making very good strides. And I'm just looking through my notes here, because something you said there, I didn't give you a shout out on this to start with, which I should have done, but it just shows the experience that you have in multiple species. But you talked about horses, performance horses, and then racing camels. And I think you've got 17 Kentucky Derby winners sort of to your name, where you've helped with the nutrition around those. So that's a huge accomplishment, and shows the depth of experience you've got in multiple species, but particularly in horse nutrition. And I think you're also a breeder of and a worker of Percheron horses.
Right, Percherons, yes.
Percherons. Great. Have they experienced? Are you still doing that with Percherons, or is that?
We've cut our herd down. As we get older, as you can tell, my beard gets longer. But as I get older, it's very hard to travel and take care of a lot of the horses. So we've cut down our population, but we used to farm with them. We had close to 20 at one time. And yes, the ones that are left, I experiment with your products with, and I think it does a lot better than some of the traditional oils that I've used in the past. And the palatability is tremendous. It's just absolutely tremendous. They think they're eating grass. It's just wonderful.
No, well, that's, yeah, we see that, and that's a lot of the comments we get back about the palatability, particularly, and also on the press cake. You know, when we press the seeds, we get the press cake comes out, which is, it looks and almost feels like MDF board, very hard, very dry, kind of brittle, and you've looked at that. You've given us the idea of how this might be used in things like critter chips and critter bark, which I think is a really great idea. But that's for dental health in large part, isn't it?
Yeah, my clients are now looking at putting in a line of dental health products based on, some of the press cake aspects that you have, the different forms. And when I've tried them in species that have overgrowth of teeth, it really serves a great purpose on keeping those teeth as normalized as possible using just dietary intervention. But sometimes you can't stop everything. Llamas in the United States and alpacas have terrible teeth growth. And I see this as a great application in llamas and alpacas, and also the small critters, rabbits, guinea pigs, hamsters. A great benefit for these animals, not only for their teeth, but when they chip it off, that goes into their digestive tract and serves as a really great source of undigestible fiber that keeps their gut really healthy.
Well, this is a very new venture for us, looking at the press cake and the micronized seed in animal nutrition, and the work that you're doing is really leading the way for us. So we're really appreciative of that. Not just the science that you bring to it, but also the industry experience with working with so many companies and so many species. Think about how we can formulate product A and product B, etc. So you're familiar with the oil, you're familiar with the press cake, you're familiar with the seed. And we've really been working together, say, for 2 years now. Have you had, when you look at it, any kind of eureka moments about how this might change the landscape of animal nutrition, animal supplementation? Anything that jumps out at you, or is it just generally this is an important ingredient across the board?
Well, I had my eureka moment or aha moment. I work out every day. I didn't work out today because it's snowing like crazy, but I typically put on a 20-pound weighted vest, and I walk 3 miles, and I'm not a young guy, but I push myself. And I was in great shape until I was cutting some trees on my farm after a terrible storm, and I had a tree fall across my legs, my fault. And it really messed up my knees. And I thought, man, I can't even work out anymore. And then at that time, we were talking about the gel caps that you do have with the ahi oil in it. I started taking that ahi oil. And it was just absolutely amazing on the anti-inflammatory effects of my knees. And now I'm doing 3 miles in record time for myself. And it didn't take that long to renew my inflammatory problem. I think it helped also renew a lot of things in my joints that were damaged. And I just swear by it. If I run out of it, I just kind of get worried, because for an older person like myself, inflammation is not only in our joints, but we have inflammatory problems that could kill us in our hearts and in our other organs. So this is especially important for people that are sedentary, animals that are sedentary, animals that are old. A lot of times the joint health is related to the dog or cat's weight or the animal's weight, and you have to let them lose weight. But this has another factor in there that it's a fantastic anti-inflammatory. I've never experienced that from any other oil. That's my eureka moment.
Well, I mean, it's so great to hear that we hear that, we get testimonials like that across the board. We get testimonials from dog owners and horse owners that see that. Obviously, it's quite nice with animals because you don't have a placebo effect per se. But I'm really pleased that you've seen such a benefit for yourself as well, and just very appreciative of everything that you're doing for us and with us, Gary, in the area of advancing our knowledge around ahi flower and ahi flower products and how they can provide sort of not just health and wellness solutions, but also planetary solutions in terms of how we use regenerative agriculture to produce them. And in doing so, hopefully we're doing our little bit for regenerating the oceans. Before I go, I do want to sort of take off my work hat and my ahi flower hat for just a second and just chat to you about some of the other great things that you do, because we have a couple of things in common. We're farmers, we live on a farm. Having our feet grounded in the dirt is important to us. You have achieved a great deal of things at a community level, and I just wanted to really give you a big call out for that, because you have been involved in farming initiatives, gardening initiatives, freedom to farm initiatives, giving people access to and knowledge to fresh food production, freedom to follow their sort of preferred choices. It relates to agriculture, horticulture, etc. And also, you're an ordained deacon within the Catholic Church, and you've done that, I think, for 30 years.
It's 20 years I've been ordained.
20 years, and you give up, I think, just about every weekend to spend time in the prison and your local prison and jails, talking to inmates that have had challenged lives and maybe their paths haven't been on the path that they would ideally set out on, and you're trying to get them, to shift their path. So as well as the great work that you're doing in animal nutrition globally, animal wellness globally, you're doing a great thing for the human population and the planet. So a big shout out to you. I've been so impressed and pleased to consider you amongst our network of friends and experts and advisors. So thank you for all the great work that you do.
What I'm doing with ahi flower is really important to me, because the more I educate the world about it, it's better for my clients, my current clients, because they have taken the step of initiating the usage in their products. So once more people understand what we're doing, then there's more popularity with the formulations I've already created. That's pretty important.
Great. Okay, Gary. Well, thank you for that, and thank you for your time this morning. I always enjoy catching up with you and learning more, and I look forward to the next time we can get together.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.